Tēnā koutou, inga iwi ko inga manuhiri. Greetings all of you. Peter, thank you for your early introduction. As the chief tree planter, I can tell you it's very difficult to have that title when most of the trees you're trying to plant are taller than yourself. So it's a struggle. And it's a pleasure being here this afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. So far in this session and at this conference, we've covered the opportunities and challenges facing the Manuka honey industry. And one of the big challenges to the sustainability of the industry is the stock of Manuka trees. Almost all our Manuka honey is from wild Manuka that are aging and that are heavily competed for by beekeepers. So one of the obvious opportunities for addressing this issue is for the establishment of Manuka plantations designed specifically to optimize Manuka honey production. So, to set a bit of a contextual setting, I want to share with you some information, and that is, I want to share with you how much has actually been planted in Manuka in the last few years. I then want to touch on some of the key factors that impact the future development of Manuka plantations, and finally, how we might be able to work together for the benefit of your business and the industry. So let's just look at how much has been planted in Manuka. The figures I'm going to give you are sourced from MPI's annual nursery survey, of which Manuka has been specifically counted only since 2016. I should point out that we don't know for sure how much of the Manuka planted was specifically for honey, but MPI has explicitly stated in their report that they assume this to be the main purpose. So in 2016, 6,300 hectares were planted in Manuka. That dropped in 2017 to 5,900. And from 2017 to 2018, that dropped by 22% to 4,600. Now, some of the possible reasons for that could be a reflection of the uncertainty due to the introduction of the MPI standards. It could be the risk of perceived risk of myrtle rust. Could be as a result of the timing of the announcement of the government funding for planting trees. Last year, there was quite a recognition that this funding was likely to be changed, and on November the 30th, the announcement was made on 1 billion tree, the 1 billion tree fund. There's another reason, obviously, for why the planting could have dropped, and that is simply the state of the industry at the time, and is currently the case. So those are some of the possible factors, but the fact is that the Manuka plantation areas have declined over the last, between 2017 and 2018. So what are the key drivers of Manuka plantation growth? Well, on the positive side, or the positive factors, there is a need for honey companies and beekeepers to secure their supply and ideally quality. Secondly, there is funding available, in fact, huge amount of funding available by the government through the 1 billion tree program. And I might add interest for investment by private sector as well. There's also increasing environmental and biodiversity concerns around traditional agriculture and forestry. But there are also some negative factors, and that is the fact that we don't have a long history to provide strong evidence of the economics of plantation Manuka. There is competition from renewed interest in pine plantations due to the anticipated changes in the carbon market. So that's where I guess some of the positive and negative factors that could impact the future development of Manuka plantations. So with this in mind, let us think smartly about what is within your sphere of influence to protect and enhance your business, if you're a beekeeper, who's looking to ideally have a well-protected, long-term site providing high-quality Manuka on a consistent basis as consistent as the weather allows. If you own your own land, you're more than halfway there. But what if you don't own your own land or have enough land that can be developed as a plantation? Well, there's a way forward, but it is one that will require a collaborative approach, which may work to your advantage. It is one that involves perhaps the beekeeper, the landowner, potentially a honey marketing company, and a plantation specialist, and who all have a common interest in the form of having security, sustainability, and increase in income. So, there's probably no better person than the beekeeper in knowing the existing value of a site for honey and its long-term attractiveness. As a beekeeper, you would know what you're getting from a particular site, the consistency of those returns. You would know when the bees forage and what is the flowering at the different times of the year. You might know the owner well enough to know if it is someone you would like to continue doing business with in the long run. You might know of their interest in looking at alternative land uses or in getting more income from their land. But what you probably don't know is how to take it further. In other words, you probably don't have the time nor the kind of knowledge necessary to take it further with the landowner. This knowledge includes things like the establishment costs, funding options, and financial projections for an investment in a Manuka plantation site. It includes the design, how you design a Manuka plantation to optimize funding. Let me give you an example. The 1 Billion Tree Fund, for instance, provides a grant of $1,800 per hectare for the planting of Manuka and $4,000 for the planting of other natives. How, for instance, can the Manuka plantation be designed in such a way so as to obtain the $4,000 per hectare funding instead of the $1,800? And there's a way. How do you design a plantation that makes it attractive for an investor to want to invest if investments funding is sought? The second gap that you might have is that how you might design a plantation to optimize revenue for the landowner. How can the plantation be designed to maximize the income for the landowner? A plantation that is designed to produce high-grade Manuka, that is optimized for bee foraging through working with the beekeeper, to maximize the carbon credits that could come from the investment in that plantation, and indeed, if there's opportunity for income to be derived from livestock grazing once the Manuka plants get large enough. And if it's a big enough site for the design of the plantation to include other tree species that provide good nutrition to the bees but do not compete with Manuka. And lastly, knowledge of the best mix of different Manuka cultivars for the site, ones that will survive, thrive, and wherever feasible, combine in such a way so as to lengthen the Manuka flowering time. So if you have a landowner that might be interested in developing a premium Manuka honey site, let's get together and start talking. 8 years ago, we entered into a joint research partnership with the government. It was the Primary Growth Partnership Program, or PGP, on high-performance Manuka plantation. In return for their investment in the program, the government, through MPI, have the expectation that the knowledge from the program will be shared for the benefit of the wider industry. And indeed, we work right across the industry because our purpose in life is to see a successful, profitable Manuka plantations be developed in New Zealand, one that will provide Manuka tree stock that in turn provides a sustainable base for the Manuka honey industry. And to achieve this, we have established, Manuka Farming New Zealand have established ourselves as a one-stop shop for anyone considering and developing Manuka plantations. We want to make sure that those involved in the decision have the most up-to-date, accurate, and complete information to make informed decisions. And if it is the right decision for them, to then get the plantation established using best practice methods and the best cultivars and combination of cultivars available. And to this extent, we've developed what we've termed the 7-step process to successful Manuka plantation investment. And it's not rocket science. When someone is looking at considering a establishing a Manuka plantation, we typically do a desktop assessment. It's free. We have a meeting with a conversation with the landowner, get some questions answered, do an aerial analysis, and out comes a assessment of indicative strengths and weaknesses of a Manuka plantation for that site. If that passes the landowner's criteria, the next step would obviously be a site assessment, where we actually go on site and do that next level of observation, analysis, and further discussion with the landowner. A proposal is then put together if the site is deemed to be, by both ourselves and the landowner, to be feasible. And that's where the projections, the revenue projections, the carbon, so that includes honey, carbon, and any other income come into play. That is where we identify the fundings that could be applied to this land, this site. So we have all the information, hopefully all the information that is necessary for the landowner to make a decision. And I should just add that in doing a site assessment, going on site, wherever possible, we try to involve the beekeeper that would be involved, because for the reasons I've outlined before, they know a lot of things that are very relevant to assessing the viability of that site. So once a plantation proposal is put together, then the landowner has another opportunity to decide whether they want to press the button and get it established. And if they press the button, everything else goes in place to ensure a successful plantation establishment. And after that, we monitor the site to ensure that new risks that come up on a year-to-year basis are identified, and also monitor the growth of the trees and etc. And obviously the last stage is there's really it's not just honey commercialization, but it's plantation commercialization. So that's really in a nutshell an overview of the plantations or Manuka plantations that have developed over the last 3 years, some of the factors that will impact the future growth of these plantations. We've outlined how a way forward, if you like, of us working together, of you playing really your part in securing sites for yourself if you're working closely with a landowner and who has an interest in getting more from the land, particularly in the honey area. And we've just outlined the next step, if you like, if you know you've got an interested landowner, the next step in bringing them on that journey. So I'll ask if you've got any questions, but that's our team here. We're all here on stand number 4. I'll just give a little bit of introduction. So Rob, who's here. Rob, where are you? Rob has had years of experience in forestry, establishment and plantation, both at an operational level and at a managerial level as well. So Rob is our National Plantation Establishment Manager. Maggie is our resident scientist. Maggie, you here? Yep. Thank you. Maggie looks at the plantation design. There's myself, and really my specialty, if you like, is the financial modeling side of things. And Bronwyn keeps us, where are you, Bronwyn? There you are, keeps us in check. We're all busy doing our bits, and Bronwyn makes sure that when we make a commitment to our client, we're following the due process, doing it properly, and get on with the job. So anyway, thank you for your time, and I really would welcome any questions that you have, and we'll try to answer them as best as I can. Thank you.
Hi, Paddy Dawkins from Pyramid Apiaries in Marlborough and Apiarist Advocate e-magazine. You briefly touched on there working with livestock in the plantations. Being that farmers have been clearing Manuka off their hillsides for generations, how can you work in with livestock around that? And also, do you have a breakdown of, early on in your presentation you had the total hectares planted, I think it was. Do you have a breakdown between North Island and South Island? And how much has been planted?
Yeah, thank you for your question. I'll answer the first question. Farmers and livestock and Manuka. So, yes, we get that question often. They've got a history of remembering or being involved in actually cutting down Manuka. And I think there's obviously with the importance and value of Manuka honey now, there's a recognition that there's value from that. And what we do find is that, in putting together the financial modelling, it's one of the things that we do ask is, are you can actually put livestock on in certain cases where the Manuka tree gets to a certain level. Is putting stock on there a consideration and for you for whatever reason, and factor that into the total commercial picture. That becomes an issue, of course, if there are other things that you have to put in place, like fencing, etc., because that obviously adds costs and there's a bit of a trade-off that has to be considered.
At what time period in the growth stage would that be?
About 2 years. Yeah. So the second question was, sorry, could you? The breakdown North and South Island. No, I don't believe if I recall, I don't believe that those reports actually give a breakdown.
You talked of high-grade Manuka, which is typically been EHA or high DHA producing. There's been a lot of talk around the variability of some of the other markers from region to region. Have you seen in some of your established plantations, are they hitting the other essential markers at good levels, and is there any work going in to to be able to create some of the some Manuka that's producing high in those other markers?
Okay, so I'll answer that with a. Most of the Manuka plantations are still not yet producing honey because they're still young. But the site at Tutira, where 130 hectares were planted 5 years ago and produced honey for the first time last year, the year before, they met last year, they met the criteria. They were tested against the MPI standards and they met those standards. Any other questions?
Stephen.
Tēnā koe, Stephen, for your professional advice. I note that you have beekeepers and landowners. I just want to refer to iwi landowners, in particular in corporations as such, and land trusts that are out there. In particular, the return of lands to some of those people like Dock Estates that had fun spraying all the Manuka, and now we're all going crazy about growing it. So we won't go there, but I just want to refer that if I am taking land back, say from my MPAs, the forestry I'm talking about, they're called non-plantable areas, and we want to invest in this funding that you speak of, how would I go about gaining some of that funding out there? Come through you?
Come through us. So we're talking about, for instance, the 1 billion tree funding.
Yeah.
Okay, we can put the application in, and we know what MPI requires, so it'll be on a case-by-case basis. But as a Māori landowner, there's also funding from other sources like TPK, Te Puni Kokore, and not Māori specific, landowner specific, but of course there's some funding available, or funding available from some regional councils for certain purposes as well. So those are the kinds of things that we would look at when we do a site assessment and plantation proposal, look at all the funding that's available. And as a Māori landowner, or looking to develop things, there are some other funding that is often available.
That's great to hear, Stephen, that there's money available for that on a national base. I just wanted to ask a question inside of your site assessment, because I do know the normal stuff, which is when you're planting, there must be a pest eradication program happening there too. Do you fund that at all?
We don't fund it ourselves, so that would still, the government under the 1 billion tree fund, there's a flat fee, like I said, of 1,800 per hectare. That's to cover whatever.
Do you know of it, where the funding comes from?
It comes through MPI or Te Uraraka.
Kia ora.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. We've got a